Low Profile receives in-kind support from Rainy Day Records, Schwartz's Deli, San Francisco Street Bakery, and 3 Magnets Brewing Company in Olympia, Washington. Check them out. From Ruinous Media and KAOS 89.3 FM Olympia, I'm Mark Lee Morrison, and this is the 88th episode of Low Profile. We've been hearing the song Shake Your Halo Down from Shudder To Think's 1992 album, Get Your Goat. My guest today is the vocalist for Shudder To Think, Craig Wedren. If that name sounds familiar, but you're not aware of his band, it might be because you've seen his name in the credits for a favorite TV show or movie. He does a lot of scores and soundtracks. Shudder To Think started in the DC hardcore scene and were one of the earliest bands to sign to Discord Records, but they never really sounded like what you'd expect from a hardcore band. Over the years, they followed their sonic and stylistic muse wherever it would take them. In 1998, the group split, and like his bandmates, Craig pursued new projects, occasionally reuniting with the band. And in 2025, Shudder To Think got back together and started working on new material in the studio, shortly before I spoke to Craig from his studio in Los Angeles. Before the interview, here's a clip of their latest 7-inch out now on Discord. It's called Thirst Walk.
Sticky with desire, it's a ghost of all your dreams. Sacred as a silver down your jeans. I know we got plans here up for dinner. I know. But have you seen her? All I really want is just to lay with you.
Craig, thank you so much for joining me for Low Profile today.
My pleasure.
I've been a fan of your work since, I don't know, I think I figured out that you guys were a thing, probably, Shudder To Think, that is, probably about the time it dissolved. So,
right, so around
50,000
98-ish?
BC, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I started there and went backwards.
Oh, wow,
an
that's
interesting
nice.
way to go.
Yeah, that's a cool way to go.
In fact, I've only in recent years heard the 80s material.
Oh, yeah, there's some fun stuff. It's listening to those demos that got released recently on LG Records, I think. It was so wonderful, but it really is, well, so last couple nights I've been at screenings for this movie High Art, which was one of the first soundtracks that Shudder To Think did.
Yeah.
Directed by Lisa Cholodenko, and we've been doing Q&As because they restored and are re-releasing the movie. And Lisa was talking last night about the cringy pain of looking backwards in the mirror to your younger, less nuanced or less refined self, and how much like beauty and chaos and like raw creativity and also just like cringy over the topness there is. I don't see that when I watch High Art. I think it's like quite refined, especially for a first movie. But I definitely feel that way when I listen to those demos. It's like performing surgery on your teenage self. You're like, ooh.
Yeah,
I love them, but it's a lot.
I mean, yeah, you definitely like reflecting back on art that you've made in your youth, especially. There's still that spark of who you're becoming at that
yes,
time.
Yes, and just the reaching, the striving, the effortfulness.
Very ambitious stuff.
It's very ambitious, and the hooks are there, and it's all there, which is what's interesting. And I remember recording that stuff on like a 4-track cassette, and thinking like, this is the shit. And listening back to it, I'm like, what is it?
When it's fresh, it's just the most exciting thing in the world.
Oh, it's everything, and that's kind of what's beautiful about younger work. You can almost watch it like it's almost a mathematical equation. It's like the less you've done, the less you've created or released or written, the more important every single granular molecule is of an idea or a song or a lyric or a yelp or a whisper or a howl. And then the more you make, the less important it is to try and fit like every idea and the essence of everything into every split second of a piece of work, until by now, having done it every day for the last 40 plus years, it's sort of like there's plenty of space and time to like get it all out there. It's all gonna find its place and have a home. And if it doesn't, that's fine too. But not when you're 16.
Is that how old you were when Shudder To Think started? Yeah,
Shudder To Think started, I moved to DC in my junior year of high school. So I was 16. It was 1985, I believe. And I'd grown up in Cleveland, but my dad was living in DC. And I needed a change, so I moved in with him. And I had been a singer in lots of mostly cover bands, but also we would write and record original stuff in Cleveland, and it ranged from early 80s pop rock type stuff to more experimental sort of Residence-y, tones on tail-y
interesting
type stuff. Really just whatever came to mind, whatever we were into.
What would Cleveland Craig want to be on a bill with? Like what artists? Oh,
that's interesting. Yeah. We were pretty omnivorous, so anything from the Cars to like, I don't know, Art Bears or the Smiths or something like that. It was all over the map because we were just devouring anything we could get our hands on. It wasn't, there weren't quite the delineations. Like if you were a music nerd or a freak for that stuff, there weren't really enough music misfits to have different scenes. So metal hung with punk, hung with goth, hung with rockabilly.
Sure, just counterculture, blanket counterculture.
Yeah, hung with hippies. So it was great. We were listening to Grateful Dead and Black Flag and, Quarter Flash all in one sitting. It was good.
So you moved to DC, and correct me if I'm wrong, Shudder To Think was a band that you joined.
Yeah, they were not called Shudder To Think. They were called Stooge, with umlauts over the U, Stuge, because didn't want to be confused with Iggy. And Stooge was really good DC hardcore band, bap, 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 bap. And I was kicked out of a couple bands in rapid succession when I moved to DC. I was kicked out of an industrial band for being too commercial. I was kicked out of a sort of XTC Chili Peppers type band for probably being too pretentious. I don't really know.
Not commercial enough.
Yeah, exactly. And so a girl I was in a musical with, I was sort of a theater kid as well in high school, and a woman named Diane gave me a cassette of her boyfriend's band, Stooge, saying their singer had gone off to college and they were auditioning. And it was a very radical change from Cleveland, where I'd grown up and had been hanging with the same people for most of my life, to suddenly having to make all new friends. And also in Cleveland, I was in popular bands, so it was sort of a calling card. And in DC, I just didn't have Bupkis, and it was a much, a much more, if we were talking about Cleveland as all the misfits being in one sort of freaky gumbo, in DC, there were enough people and there was enough kind of coastal culture, let's call it underground stuff. And then plus, you throw Discord in the mix. So everybody kind of had their thing and had their scene, and it was less Shaggy and Little Rascalsy than Cleveland. So without friends, or still in the process of making new friends, and without a band, it was a real sort of free fall moment for me. And I went to this audition rehearsal, got in a room, we started playing their songs, and it was a very strange combination with what they were doing and kind of my yelping, which was coming a lot from, cover bands that I'd played in that were doing Sabbath or Susie or the Bee Gees or whatever it was. But it just felt like full of potential for all of us. By the end of the rehearsal, there was just sort of a feeling in the room that, maybe there was a little portal we could crawl through and kind of claim for our own.
Is there a story of how Shudder To Think and Discord become? Well,
Amanda Mackay, who Ian's younger sister, she's in a really good band right now called Bedmaker. She had a literal sister band. She was a year younger than me and went to the same school I was at. I think she was a year younger, and coincidentally, same class as Nathan Larson, who became the guitar player for Shudder To Think between our last Discord record, Get Your Goat, and our first major label record, Pony Express record. So Nathan was a guitar player for Pony Express, 50,000 BC, and the beginning of the soundtrack stuff. Amanda had this record label called Sandwich, which I think was funded by Discord. It was definitely sort of
like a sister label?
Yeah, literally related and kind of
literally
agile.
A sister.
Literally a sister. And so she had put out this band called Lunch Meat, which may have been related to Soul Side, which then became Girls Against Boys.
Oh, okay.
So she was putting out, I would say, sort of first releases, it seemed like, by bands that maybe, some of which eventually recorded for Discord. And she just offered us a deal. She was in 10th grade and we were in 11th grade, or she was in 11th grade and we were in 12th grade.
Yeah.
And
so you did call up your lawyer and look over the contract.
Yeah. And so we happily said yes to that, but it took a few years before we found our fans in DC, or before people warmed to what we were doing. I'm sure it took a couple of years for it to even be sort of coherent or legible live. Like I don't know if you get this with making things, but for me, a lot of times I'll get excited, even now, like right now I'm working on a score for a new movie by David Wayne and Ken Marino.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, it's really going to be so fun, especially because they're my friends. They're my old friends. I always want to send them the first ideas because I'm feeling what those ideas will ultimately become, even though I suspect it would just sound like gibberish. to anybody except me, because I'm following a feeling and sort of an idea of, of potential aspirational loveliness that doesn't quite exist yet. And I would say for the first couple of years of Shudder to Think, even though like in rehearsals, we all felt, sort of the germ that is the whole being. But I think live, it was just sort of like a big old noisy, smeary question mark. So it took a couple of years for people to come around to that. And during that time, Ian Mackay became a fan. I think at first he and a lot of Discordians were like, who's the theater kid who likes to dress all poncy and like sing poetry out of his notebook in front of this like really good band? And then eventually it all I don't know, settled in or clarified itself.
It kind of gelled.
Yeah, it kind of gelled. And so by the time we were working on music for our second record, 10 Spot, Ian offered us a deal, again, Call the Lawyers. Mm-hmm. And not only was that the beginning of a really wonderful creative relationship, it solidified lifelong friendships with, Ian and a lot of other people who were sort of in and around Discord at the time, who still to this day really, really feel like family to us.
Yeah.
So, we did the best we could, and we were making music, as we always have, that's like a little bit beyond our understanding. Mm-hmm. It's like aspirational, kind of creatively. And that didn't really sound like other bands. So we didn't really have a template or reference in terms of what we should sound like. Part of what you hear on 10 Spot is, in my opinion, like really strong, clear songs that are a little bit darker sonically than maybe they need to be.
Yeah, probably different from live, sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Shudder to Think is recently reunited for some live
reformed,
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really amazing, actually. I was actually just thinking about that because we're back in a writing process now, and it's different because we're all in, or some of us are in different locations, and mm-hmm. obviously technology being what it is, like at the time, all the way through the 90s, it was strictly analog, but we can share Pro Tools sessions now, and I have this great studio in my backyard, so when we rehearse as we're writing something, we do really good recordings.
Nice.
And then work either live in a room together, or everybody just work in their separate spaces using shared, essentially demo sessions of these mm-hmm. songs that we're working on. So it's quite liberating, and I'm super curious to see what comes out of it. We're really just at the sort of front end of the tunnel, writing new stuff. I mean, there are tons of ideas. We unhit pause and here's the onslaught of ideas that have accumulated over the last 20 years. Let's follow them all through and see which ones we love. If you had asked me 2 months ago, is this a viable Shudder to Think, I would have been like, oh, I have no idea. We need to get in a room together and see. But within an hour of being in the room together, it was just very, very clear. It was also that thing of Nathan doesn't really play guitar in that style since Shudder to Think. He does soundtracks. Mm-hmm. I don't really sing in that style because I'm not playing in live bands usually, and you just sing differently.
Yeah.
When it's loud volume, live, visceral, kinetic music as opposed to writing and recording at the same time, which is what happens with soundtracks and home recordings and things like that. So, so we really needed to see whether we even had the muscles for it anymore. And it was all right there. as the, as sort of the original thing often is. It's just muscle memory. It's like encoded.
Super. Well, looking forward to whatever comes about from all of that.
Yeah, me too.
So we got some years down the road. You've put out a few records on Discord.
Mm-hmm.
People love the Shudder to Think. And Epic Records says, hey, we noticed this.
Mm-hmm.
Come on over here and make a proper alternative rock album.
Yeah, that's
we can
right.
play
That's
on the
right.
radio.
Yeah, it was during the Feeding Frenzy.
Uh-huh. Yeah. What, 94 the album came out, so...
94 it came out.
They talked to you before you recorded, obviously.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But
what did you guys think about that, like, as going into it, weighing the decision?
Right.
It
It depended which band member you talked to. I had graduated college, and Chris, the guitar player, and Mike, the drummer, we had decided as a band that we wanted to do it full time.
Mm-hmm.
Chris and Mike got off the ride for various personal reasons. Arguably wisely, arguably foolishly. It depends who you ask and when, what hour of the day.
Sure.
We weren't sure what was going to happen. I remember the day that Chris quit, and I thought, well, maybe that's it for Shudder to Think. And it so happened that Nathan's band at the time, he was living in New York, was called Stigmata A Go-Go. And they had a gig somewhere. And my memory, it was like an afternoon gig, but I don't think that makes sense. And I went there. Nathan and I had been, besties since high school. And I went to his show and sort of was drowning myself in my sorrows and talking to Nathan about the end of Shudder to Think. And he and I got into a conversation at the show about how awesome the music would be if Nathan would be the guitar player in Shudder to Think, but how bad and destructive it could potentially be for our friendship. Just because we were those, there's certain kind of best friends when you're younger where it's like there's so much overlap, you're almost like the same person in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
And that can get very hairy, especially in a van together for months at a time. So at the beginning of Nathan's Stigmata Go-Go show, we were like, yeah, that's a terrible idea. That should never happen, right? Even though it would be so good. And by the end, like a few pints into the night after his set was over, he was the new guitar player for Shudder to Think. So from that point, we started writing music that quickly coalesced, congealed into what would become the sound of Pony Express record.
Say what? You move really fast. I saw you screaming at the top floor. Big window crash. I'm deaf, so what'd you have to do that for? Him and giving it up, that you a little foil. You can't return to us, to us, to us. You chew a little foil. You can't return to what? To what? To what? To what?
Still blows my mind, like how unlike anything out there.
It's
that
pretty
record is.
unique.
It's quite a soup.
Yeah, it's quite a soup. And I think that for me, personally, for my songwriting, between Get Your Goat and Pony Express record, I had sort of discovered this songwriting style that felt pretty uniquely my own. And so it was really fun to sort of merge with Nathan and go down that pipe together. We were, again, rehearsing in D.C., but living in New York. My dad owned a chain of hamburger restaurants called Little Tavern, infamous around D.C.
Okay.
And there was a sort of like Quonset hut office building. It had been around since the 30s. So this office building was very like cinematic. You know, it was filled with like deco ephemera from years of Little Tavern, and like a jukebox from the 60s and a weird French fry fryer from the 70s. And that was where we rehearsed.
Nice.
And so we would just come up with these riffs and really just loop them on repeat for hours. So there was this kind of getting it into our fascia, muscle memory, trance induction, writing rehearsal process around these songs. And by the time Michael Goldstone, who was the A&R guy that signed us from Epic, came around, we were already peddling Pony Express songs. So, I mean, there was no gotcha about it on our part. It was, this is the new music we're writing. We didn't know, we wouldn't have known how to do it any differently. Like, no, we want you to write hits. And as far as we were concerned, these are all hits. I mean, that was like our feeling about it. It was never for us, at least never for me, an ethical issue, jumping from an indie to the big bad beast of a major, right? We'd read all the books. We knew all the pitfalls and the dangers. We wanted as many people as possible to hear this music that we were making. We just didn't want to change the music to get people to hear it. So anybody who had some juice and sympathized with what we were doing, we wanted to talk to them. So when Michael Goldstone came around, and I think Eddie Vedder turned him on to us. Ed was a fan of Get Your Goat, or the song Pebbles off of Get Your Goat. And so he told Michael about us. Michael started coming around, and he was very honest about it. He was like, I'm not sure I totally get your music, but like I totally, as an A&R guy and as a great A&R guy, get how your fans respond. And so I want to build on that, was basically his pitch. And we said, great, thanks. You know, Cheap Trick and The Clash are on Epic Records. We can handle that.
So Pony Express record, different people received it differently.
I'll say.
Particularly, do you remember this negative review that starts out with, this is horrible. And then another quote from the same thing is, it's rich kids, sissy boys prancing around on a boat.
I mean, I can't argue with that assessment, except for the this is horrible part.
It was Beavis and Butthead.
Oh,
which you're on Beavis and Butthead, you've made it.
Also, if you're getting insults from Beavis and Butthead, you know that's a good I'll take them. I mean, we were always sort of like love. We prefer love, but second to love, we like hate.
Sure. I mean, it's a response.
Yeah.
You're getting a reaction.
Hard response, yeah.
All right. And then there's stylistically a pretty significant, well, I don't know. I guess it's all gradual to jump up to your final, like, studio proper album, if you want to call it that, 50,000 BC, leaning a little more into the, I guess, more major key,
yeah, for sure. That was the
more
that was
earworms, I guess.
Yeah, more. Well, and also allowing other genres in, rather than insisting on like forging our own. I don't know. There's some like Eaglesy, kind of. What is it, like AOR country rock in there, like Saddest Day of My Life, and there's a little bit of soul. I mean, it's all shot through Shudder to Think filter, but there's a little bit of soul on All Eyes Are Different, and then I don't know. I mean, to me, I love that record. I know a lot of people, I know it was divisive for people. It was also the first one where because Pony Express didn't perform commercially as well as the label needed it to in order to keep funding our enterprise,
your organization,
vision,
yeah, sure.
our organization. So I remember, that was when there were meetings at the label at Sony, and people would be like, "Listen, we don't want to dictate what you make whatever you want, but we definitely need something we can go to radio with." And there was a sort of divisive or contentious re-recording of the song Red House, which the label asked us to do.
Oh, okay. That was a favor.
Yeah, I felt fine about it because we recorded the first version for the Discord record, Funeral of the Movies. Part of Red House up to that point was I never wanted to solidify the lyrics. So every time we would play it, the lyrics were different. So the version on Funeral at the Movies is really just whatever I was singing that day in the studio. And I think we recorded it in London, the end of a tour. And just never felt quite definitive or finished to me. So I was really happy to go back. And it had sort of evolved live with Nathan playing guitar too. I think Nathan had some trepidations about it. I was all for it so long as it added something to the original. Mm-hmm. I think some fans felt like it was sellouty, but I actually really love that version, so I feel...
I'm sure you got like super rich off of that one.
So rich.
Am I talking about the medicine, illegal thing you eat when you are sick? Am I falling out of sight design beyond the red house road I moved too quick? She's got real big bones and a gorgeous home in between her arm and me. There's something quite good I love. Smoke is an air, but she'll blow. Cause I'm the rain or the snow. Let's see
Okay, I'm really excited to talk about what I think as Shudder To Think's cosplay era.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay? The First Love, Last Rites, like you were talking about. Mm-hmm. You've got a who's who and a who's that of guest vocalists joining you. You're singing as well, but you're just embodying all these different styles and genre play.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a compilation.
Yes.
To me.
Very intentionally.
And it's great. It's beautiful. I mostly just want to know how fucking fun that was.
Oh, it was the best. It was the best, especially after having been after Pony Express record, which is a very dark record.
Yeah, we did not mention that, but for the listener, it does get a little dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think we were ready for a little sunshine and sunlight and top down, like convertible time. So we wanted to sort of get out of this, I don't know if it was this conscious, but instinctually, intuitively, we wanted to get out of this sort of straitjacket of what Shudder To Think was or could be. We knew that we were getting a little bit tired of the album cycle and wanted to put down roots in our lives. We were at the end of our 20s, all of us. And I'd been doing a lot of soundtrack stuff with friends from college, David Wayne, Ken Marino, Tom Lennon. And I was doing music along with my pal Theodore Shapiro for The State, which was a sketch comedy. I totally agree.
I'm a comedy nerd, so I'm really holding back right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Gushing
I love
about your friends. So we're talking about
great.
your work, but yeah.
That's great. So I was living at the time with a guy named Jesse Peretz, who is a director, but was also the bass player in Lemonheads early on. And he was about to make his first feature-length film. I was working on State music, and Shudder To Think was happening. He had directed a couple videos for us. And so he came to me one day and he said, hey, read this short story by Ian McEwan, I think it was, called First Love, Last Rights. I'm turning it into a script and making a movie out of it. One of the main characters has a collection of oldies, 45s in it, and we have no budget to license anything. Would Shudder To Think be excited to do all of the songs in her collection, along with whatever sort of minimal underscore the movie might need? And so I'm thrilled at the opportunity. It was so fun. I had also had cancer the year before. Like while we were making 50,000 BC, I had cancer and was going through chemotherapy and radiation. And it was just, even though the album is sort of brighter and lighter and has positive energy to it, it was maybe a little more aspirational than real because the band had been unraveling a little bit. The relationships had gotten really messy. And then we all kind of got our priorities put back in order when I was diagnosed with cancer. We're family. We love each other. We make really special music together.
Yeah.
Let's make 50,000 BC and celebrate that. And then after that, and then we decided we wanted to do film soundtracks. And so First Love, Last Rights came down the pike. We had a lot of very talented, well-known musician, singer friends who, beginning with Jeff Buckley and Billy Corgan, were really excited to sing on these tracks. And so that opened the floodgates for all of these other singers. Speaking of Cheap Trick, Robin Zander, John Doe from X, who's a hero of ours.
Oh, I love the one he sings on there, too.
Me too.
Did you ever see a grown man cry the way that I cried when I fell in with you? I knew you was trouble, knew you was bad blood, but oh, I guess that I'm trouble too. It used to be I didn't give a damn about you. Now I'm falling at the feet of love.
High Art, totally different. Sounds like a totally different band.
High Art
is it?
It was large. High Art was largely me and Nathan.
Okay.
Working separately, but together, like conceptually together.
Working on the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That said, where First Love, Last Rights is literally sort of a musical character acting or cosplay, you know? High Art is more a parallel track of music that Nathan and I had been doing since we were teenagers.
Okay.
We would go home after school and, you know, make experimental ambient 4-track type recordings. So it was sort of a continuation or a coalescence of that. It just happened to really, really fit the beautiful movie. Stay, we both still do like a lot of meditation music, a lot of ambient music, a lot of, you know, less formal stuff.
Low Profile is listener supported by folks like you. If you enjoy this program, I work on new episodes when I can afford to do it during my work week, and that depends on flexible monthly or one-time donations that you can make at patreon.com/lowprofile. That's patreon.com/lowprofile. One thing that I haven't really heard much about and don't know much about within this whole, what I'm calling cosplay era, is the contributions to Velvet Goldmine.
Oh yeah, that's the biggest, bestest cosplay.
Are you responsible for the lyric, "A slap on my ass by a lipstick kiss elbow glove"?
I certainly am.
Well, thank you for your contribution to humanity with that mind-boggling string of words.
Thank you. Bowie wouldn't license some of his songs, and so they were able to get, for instance, you know, the rights to T-Rex and Roxy Music and whatever else.
Yeah.
But then there were still a couple holes. They needed some sort of centerpiece songs for these characters. We had done First Love, Last Rites, and I think High Art by that point. It was all around the same time, but there was this really wonderful moment in late 90s New York indie film. So we got a call from Randy Poster, the one in charge of overseeing all things musical for movies. And so Randy approached us and was basically like, do you think you guys could do something in the style of Diamond Dogs era Bowie? And we just sort of laughed because, after so many years of like torturing ourselves to do something original, that doesn't sound like anything else, to suddenly be asked to do something that was literally so in our DNA that it was just like, yeah, that's not a problem. That's not going to be a problem. And so we just Nathan went home and wrote Hot One, and I went home and wrote The Ballad of Maxwell Demon. And I think it was just like, it was just right there. It's like saying, you know how to laugh? Well, yes, I've been laughing my whole life, of course. That was what what that assignment was like.
Your poison doesn't hurt me, no. Tender wine disguised in a milk-back bear kitty show. I'm here to celebrate the wanderlust. Last I learned from good God above. At the slap on my ass by a lipstick kiss elbow glove. I came down like water for the age of solar.
So one of the joys of getting to do soundtracks is just you get to whore around. You get to kind of be like a genre slut. And I don't know that we would have been able to articulate it at the time, but after we did First Love, Last Rites, it was like, oh my God, yeah, we just let some air and light in. And then High Art in particular really expressed this side of my and Nathan's music that had always been present since we were, 15 or 16 years old and making bedroom ambient experimental music. It creeps into some Shudder To Think stuff, like you can hear on Get Your Goat, and even a little bit on Funeral at the Movies, that there's sort of like loops and textures that came out of my sampler, which was my other instrument at the time.
Oh, wow.
It was like I played guitar, I sang, and I loved my sampler. It was also the end of the 90s, and sort of trip hop was happening, and Warp Records was kicking off, and that was really where my attention was going. And so to get to do something like High Art, where we sort of, for the first time, came literally out of like the bedroom closet with our mistress. And we're also not going to confuse a Shudder To Think audience, because the minute it's for a movie. And around that point, Nathan and I, we were also doing music for like pretty big fashion shows, like during Fashion Week in New York City, which was a whole crazy other kind of scoring gig. Yeah, it was really fun. It was very difficult and way too serious for what it was. I mean, that's sort of like the cliche of the fashion industry, is how seriously they take, dressing like space clowns and, which we love and also love to make fun of. And so, and we were always sort of into fashion and I was always into expression through dress, and was sort of a theater kid, so I was into that. And, so we were doing that, and it felt like, oh, we're going to turn into like the Shudder To Think kind of music and sound production house, and this will be great. Like, not changing our standards or values in the least, just completely expanding out into different quadrants of music making. And we couldn't have understood fully how utterly the record business as we knew it and had grown up with was about to collapse and never to return. The clock only goes one way. And once something's over, it's over, and that's good, and then it mutates and becomes something else. Even if it comes back around, like Shudder To Think is now, it's like, it's definitely new, and necessarily so. So we thought we were about to transform into this other thing, and it was prescient in a way because we would have had to do those things anyway in order to make a living for all of us.
Right.
Especially in New York City. Nathan was very dissatisfied. He was very frustrated. He needed to do his own things. He was really pining at the time to front his own stuff. And so we hit pause, and we didn't know whether it would be forever or for the time being. But it's interesting in retrospect, and I'm sure, now that we're all working together again and, back in love, I'll be curious. I'm curious to hear what everybody's take is on our hiatus. Like, should we have stuck it out?
Right,
I don't think
right.
so.
Like, where would it have gone?
Yeah.
Because the next band you did was Baby, right?
Yeah, that's right. I had already, like, in Shudder To Think, in this sort of, like, new era of, like, boy band stuff was happening at the end of the 90s and all this great electronic stuff. It was like the where the two, the sublime to the ridiculous, or where the two extremes meet, where it was like Backstreet Boys and Square Pusher,
Mm-hmm.
And I was there for both of it, for like all of it. And it was before the 80s revival had started happening. I was just like, what if the second half of the 80s and the first half of the 90s never existed at all? And things had gone from like 1985, like let's call it like Duran Duran, Seven and the Ragged Tiger, right?
Mm-hmm.
The sort of more like progressive new wave stuff that was happening, and just kept going, right? Got more experimental and more weird, but was still rooted in this sort of like pop classicism, I guess. Mm-hmm. Electronic, but like, with edges. And then the whole electroclash thing started happening in New York, and it was like, oh yeah, that's it. That's what that is. So I sort of put together Baby. I started recording all these songs that became Baby songs, and realized that it was not something I could do by myself. I just wanted it to be like a great progressive electronic pop band, basically.
Right.
And so put together the band Baby around all these demos that I was making after Shudder To Think had broken up, and in between movie projects, because I really was having a hard time getting work. I was having a hard time getting anybody to pay attention to my music. It was a very, very dry, free fall era for me. I got an enormous amount of work done. The one thing that didn't go away was the sort of generator, the creative generator.
Right.
So just all day, every day, I was writing songs. I'd been paired with some more traditional songwriters. This guy, Jimmy Harry, he and I co-wrote a bunch of songs for my first solo record, and songs that became Baby songs. I don't know, I think I was writing and recording Baby music from about 2000 to 2004. But it wasn't a full-time thing. It was like,
Sure.
we'd play a show every couple months in and around New York. Not unlike Shudder To Think in DC, it took a couple of years for people to come around, because unlike the electroclash thing that was happening, which was like very wry and punk and sort of embraced and celebrated a kind of amateurism, Baby was really slick. Like, everybody could play. And it was more like, if the electroclash stuff was more like soft cell, which always had this like skronkiness to it,
Mm-hmm.
Baby was more like Roxy Music or Blondie or something like that.
Yeah, very, very glossy. Like
Yeah, very glossy.
Uh-huh.
And so that was weird for people. The combination of gloss and like clear references, when people were probably expecting something more along the lines of Shudder To Think.
Right. No sticking a fish in a tattoo gun anymore.
Right, exactly. Yeah, at least not for, yeah. I mean, that stuff was all being kind of stockpiled in the background, but
Yeah.
it just needed a break.
Get your clothes, get your keys, get your money, get your body. Get your clothes, get your keys, get your money, get your body. Get your body, get your body.
Baby, I think, addressed the "where are the hits? We need pop songs" voices that had been coming into our ears in Shudder To Think toward the end. And then my first solo record, and all this music was being written around the same time, Baby and solo stuff, was more like the guitar-based band version answer to that question. It was like, motherfuckers, I can write a normal song, I can write a pop song, I can write a singer-songwriter song, you know. It was sort of a... It's hilarious because usually when you think of like having something to prove, you think of something like edgier and harder and pushing the boundaries. But in this case, we had been in this sort of edgy, hard pushing the boundaries thing for a long time, and it was all that we were known for, that I was known for. And so the bold thing, the brave thing, the risk taking, and the still needing to prove something was more about being a little more normie.
The choice was up to me. Here I go, leap into the sweet unknown. Remember rumors of miracles and leave my fate to angels. Will kill one man's heart, will cure mine. I'm sending all my dreams to the front line. What will kill one man's heart will cure mine. And in time, we will all feel fine. Forever opening heart and soul, awakening Lord, breaking the boat that gets so restless. I want it all. The little changes seem so small.
Yeah, I remember when Lapland came out, my initial reaction, and not in a bad way, but I was just like, dude, why is homie from Shudder To Think sound like Sade all of a sudden?
Yeah, totally.
Which, I mean, I love Sade, so I mean, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah. No offense taken. Yeah, I think a lot of people were like, what? That's like some sellout bullshit. But like, how to do it.
You know, you make what you're gonna make.
That's right.
So you got the dream dreaming. 20 years after the Baby record comes out, I feel like there's a little bit of a return.
Yeah, for sure.
To that
it's
vibe.
Connected. Yeah,
like
absolutely.
You've been hanging out with your solo stuff a lot more party music than you did in the 20th century. Yeah.
I think because with my solo stuff, just in my gut, it never felt like Shudder To Think broke up. And so for the most part, I was holding back that kind of material on my solo records. Or if it did creep in, it was like more acoustic or more sort of art poppy rather than just like hammer down, heavy AC/DC guitar fragmentation. Like if a riff or a part or even a song felt like Shudder To Think, usually it would wind up in a folder on the back burner. There are a couple on every record. They're like total Shudder to Think songs. On my first solo record, a bunch of the songs were things that started off as Shudder to Think things I was writing toward the end that were like a little warmer and more organic and more sort of rootsy or Americana, or I don't even know.
Yeah, sunshine music.
Yeah, sunshine music, California music.
Yeah.
So all of my solo stuff has always been, for me, a way to sort of explore, indulge, and express like whatever stuff I'm into at a given time. Whatever I'm thinking about, whatever styles of music are interesting, and that's the beauty of it. It's like it doesn't have to be stuck in, a 4-piece mode. Guitar, bass, drums, vocals.
Yeah, keeps the likes of us on our toes, too.
So. Good. Good.
I can't even imagine what, everybody in the reformed Shudder to Think has been on their own musical and personal journey, and you're not coming from the same place as you were when you were doing Get Your Goat and Pony Express. Like, what is inside of you all collectively that's going to emerge?
Mm-hmm.
It's
so curious. And, I was just working on a new Shudder demo this morning, and it just feels like the next Shudder to Think thing. It's not radically different. It's just like unhit pause. And it's not conscious. Mm-hmm. It's just that, character, right? I mean, if we're talking about music or different projects or different bands, like character acting, mm-hmm. This is just that it's the original guy. That's like the original stuff. It just is the most natural thing in the world. Right now, it just feels so exciting and fresh and fun. And I'm like, I want to remember this because I also remember a time in Shudder to Think. There was a point at which it started to feel rigid or constricting or stuck or something. And I was like, oh, maybe the key is to just bands should wait 10 or 20 years between records. The My Bloody Valentine model.
Thank you so much for hanging out and chatting for a while.
Oh, yeah, of course. My pleasure.
Sticky with desire, the ghost of all your dreams, sacred as a silver dam.
This has been Low Profile with Markley Morrison, yours truly. Thanks again, Craig Wedren, for spending some time breaking down your history with Shudder to Think and lots of other cool stuff. Shudder to Think's latest single is called Thirst Walk, out now on Discord Records. You can follow them on social media or check their website to keep up to date on them. And you can follow this show on whatever podcasting platform you use to get notified of new episodes coming soon. And explore previous episodes at lowprofilepodcast.com.
Sidewalk, serve it up for you, reach it. Time just stops when you're in my sight. Stick to what you know, kid, and learn the word now. You're shaky as a flower with snow. I know we have been to up for dinner. I know, but have you seen her? All I really want is just to lay beside your tomb, staring up at the long black trees all season. Will I see you tonight? Get low and disconnect the morning light. The sidewalk, serve it up for you, reach it. Time just stops when you're in my sight. Will I see you tonight? Or will you see it tonight? I wanna see it. I guess we'll see it tonight. I guess we'll